Sorry about that. I'm back. There was a problem with the internet connection. So I'll just carry on from where I left off from that other video. So obviously you could have, Greek and Roman philosophy and from Stoicism, you could have learned about rational thinking. And obviously that's been around for thousands of years, but understanding how to apply that to OCD wouldn't have been so obvious. Now, Albert Ellis made it a lot more obvious when he founded CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and he would have, that obviously was then, he was obviously delivering CBT in the form of REBT, which was rational motive behavior therapy, or RET. Initially, he would have been he would have been using that approach with OCD. So people would have obviously been getting good OCD treatment in that way, but because an understanding of how it all works in depth is only in the period of maybe the last, I would say, 10 years. And obviously this account draws upon that and that's the whole mission of what I'm doing. Now, I would have only, myself, it was only 10 years ago that I was able to be fully recovered. Would I have been able to see that 30 years prior? It would have been very difficult, because the things that brought me to a position of this understanding was lots of pieces, books, understanding, therapy, various things that came together to bring about my journey to recovery. So you're only talking in a period of the last few decades. Now, if you're talking then about good information, there's very, very limited information online anyway. OCD's in the dark ages drastically, hence why I built these accounts to do that and to raise awareness of all that, because there's less than a handful of people that truly understand OCD. And so you've got a situation there where it's very, very limited. So therefore, if you look into the future from this point going forward, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you're entering a period of the best times for OCD. Like with anything, if you look at certain diseases, with certain cancer treatments, they had no way of finding cancer in certain parts of the body, where now that's improved. You look at things like testicular cancer, 90% survival rate, all these things are changing. So, the next 10, 20, 30 years, unless we wipe ourselves out as a species, we've got good times coming with OCD, but we've got a lot of work to do, because in terms of people who follow this account and people who are suffering from OCD around the world, if you've got OCD and you are on social media, which is, I imagine, Instagram, Facebook, or one of those social media platforms, obviously you can reach that. Now, that's a large part of the world can do that, but then this account, for example, is only in English. So that's why I've now having it translated into various different languages, and I also have translators that work with me with all the coaching sessions I do, so that I can speak directly to people from different countries who can't speak English. But we're still miles from the scale that it needs to be on, because when I look at the number of people that call me message me from the Philippines, from Thailand, from India, that have Pakistan, that have terrible OCD options available to them. Doctors that are going to highly prescribe meds, as they do in most of the Western world anyway, but more so than ever. Very limited understanding of OCD. So you're talking about a very difficult time and location to have OCD. So a lot of those places are still not far off some of those places of 100 years ago in relation to what's available to them. Especially in cultures where if they openly speak out about certain fears, it could be pretty dangerous to their own life. So if you're looking at OCD as a timeline like that, we're pretty fortunate we're right at a period where things are coming together. I certainly wouldn't want to have OCD in any of those periods going back. Even the last 30, 40 years would have been very difficult. And going back hundreds of years would have been extremely difficult. It doesn't even bear to think. And then you've got to remember what you had available. And the whole point of this post is to give you an understanding of the timeline of history with OCD, but also to give you an understanding of gratitude, which is a key thing to understand and learn in the OCD recovery journey. And I think one other point there is to think about what they would have been treating OCD like in the past when it comes to medication. I mean, how addictive benzodiazepines were wasn't really known, or when it was known wasn't monitored. So obviously people would have just been stuck on extremely high benzo doses, and that would have been a benefit to them initially, but then made their life very, very difficult. So you had that situation. Obviously we've got much better meds today, but with OCD, meds don't get under it fully. They take the edge off, but it doesn't cut it, doesn't get right under it. Now let's have a look back at some of these questions. I'm sure there was others on the last video before it cut out with the internet connection, but I'll cover these ones on here. What is the underlying fear of how much you make your partner laugh? I'm going to cover our OCD in a separate subject, because obviously on Instagram Live, because there's a lot to talk about on that topic. What is your advice on setbacks? I think I'm heading in the right direction until I feel like I take a few steps back and get so discouraged I worry always be in this loop. Well, setbacks are never square one. You see, even no period in our lives are ever square one. Why? Well, because right now, if I think about myself talking now, as opposed to 5 minutes ago at the beginning of this video, or 10 minutes ago at the beginning of this video, I'm a different person to I was then. Why? Because I've just listened to this video and myself talking through this video, and I might have learned different things about this video and so on. So no moment, not even a second, nothing is ever the same thing. So it's very, very important to be aware of that, because otherwise what's happening is we are constantly thinking a setback is like, oh, all our work's been done, and we're stuck right at the beginning. It's a terrible disaster. How horrendous situation to be back at square one. And there is no such thing as square one. Setbacks are part of the process. Recovery is ups and downs. That's what recovery process is like. Lots of ups and downs on the way to recovery, peaks and troughs, and then they level out as we get better. But some of the worst days follow the best days, and vice versa. Don't be too concerned about changing neural pathways in the brain. Just look at recovery steps and program what you're going to do. Don't be too concentrating on the amygdala and all these parts of the brain. Far too often books talk about all parts of the brain and how things work, and it might sound exciting, and the word amygdala is thrown around all day because it's a popular word. Yes, it describes what it does, but people with OCD don't really need to know too much about the amygdala, and they don't need to know about neural pathways. It's about changing our beliefs and perspectives. You can leave. It's like if you had a broken leg, you want to know, oh, how's my leg healing, getting better. You don't want to know every single part about the leg and every single part about what's involved in the cells, and you don't need that much detail. Thankful to have found this account, living in India. I'm very glad about that. India, Pakistan, in many of these countries, I do a lot. I'm trying to do a lot of work to raise awareness there, and I'm very, very happy for the benefits of the internet today, where people can reach and find out about OCD from those countries, because you would never have seen that before, but I think it's crucial that obviously I changed the site into being in multiple languages so that we reach people there, because otherwise it's too limiting. It definitely is too limiting. So thank you very much for following. There will be an Indian OCD recovery page, OCD recovery India page, that will be done in the next, I think it's about the next month. It should be finished, so you'll be able to see everything on there. Will you ever train someone to be able to coach sessions like you? That's often a question I get asked, because I work a huge number of hours. That's pretty full on. I have thought about training up people to do what I do. I've thought about that very seriously many times, because I've only got a limited amount of hours. The problem is the amount of training that would needed, because it involves quite a lot, and so I would need to spend quite a long amount of time doing that. It will be something that I'm thinking about, and I am considering about doing. So yeah, I will think about how I'm going to go about that at a later date, because at the moment I'm working on the podcast, this YouTube channel, TikTok page, all these different things to help with OCD awareness, and so I've got quite a lot on, and this book that I'm trying to get done, which is all a lot of work in between the sessions and all the social media and responses in the group and so on. So it's a lot, but I have the different people that work in my company behind the scenes that allow me to operate the way I do, so I can completely focus on what I do with the one-to-one coaching. There's lots of people that are behind the scenes keeping everything going, because this there's a lot of work in what I do. I work with a very large number of people, so it has to be very well organised. So, but yes, I definitely will be thinking about that. Biggest challenge is not even treatment of OCD being understood, but therapists even realising that's what's in it in the first place. Had OCD since I was 19 when it got severe at 13, absolutely. That's the journey that we've all been on the way to getting better, going to multiple therapists who didn't understand OCD, whether they're OCD specialists or not. Very, 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 very few truly understand OCD. Only found out it's OCD 2 bloody years ago, but wow, better now, thanks Rob. Yeah, it's finding out it's OCD is part of the journey, and it can take a long time to find that out often. I have this time OCD thing. I feel I do not get things done fast, like fix relationships or other things. I get stuck on how long things take. Something bad will happen to people I care about. I will cover that in another one because it's a kind of harm OCD, so I'll cover that in a separate topic. Will you be doing a GAD video? Yes, a generalized anxiety disorder video. I'll be doing a video on that specifically. The YouTube channel is going to have tons of videos on GAD, panic disorder, OCD, all in detail. I will be covering all of those, and in the podcast. I'm going to probably be spending the next year doing a lot more live video stuff. I plan on spending a lot of time doing that because I think it's the best way to reach a lot of people, and I think it's the best way for me to be able to share my knowledge quickly. Time is the thing that I haven't got much of, so this is obviously the best way to deliver that. So I will be doing a lot more things like that, and there'll be a lot more resources for you to listen to on all different topics. I won't miss out generalized anxiety disorder. It was one that kept me really stuck, hidden in the background with very little knowledge. It's massively misunderstood by the therapy communities. They often think it's just general anxiety, which it isn't. It's like a secondary cycle that's in the background that's locked on, usually to fear of not trusting the world and life anymore, and uncertainty. So it's a combination of that, as well as primarily fear of fear driving things behind the scenes. What would be the first thing to do when an anxious thought threatens on becoming an obsession? First intervention. I will cover that in another topic because there's a bit on that to cover. What did you like about Paul David's At Last Life book? Well, I think Paul David's sort of a really nicely well-packaged version of Claire Weekes in the modern day in a lot of ways, and I found that very helpful. And a lot of people, I always put it in the reading list because I think it is very helpful. A sort of more in detail look at Claire Weekes, more appropriate to how people are thinking and feeling, and I think it delivers that very well. So that's why I've always included that in there. How do you break the cycle of rumination after having an intrusive thought? It's not about trying to break a cycle of rumination. You cannot break the one that goes on in your head, POCD, right? You can't break that out. Just let me explain something for someone who's recovered so you can see this. Just as I went to tap my head like that and go thought, instantly intrusive thought goes, jam that through your head, right? But there is no me trying to block that, force that, or work that out, because it hasn't got any pull anymore because of my relationship with it. But I certainly couldn't have done that back then. So with thoughts, you're going to have an automatic rumination cycle that's going on in the background that you won't be able to stop until the fear is brought down, until you're more comfortable with uncertainty and your relationship with the thoughts and the feelings and any intrusion, urges, or whatever that comes with it. But that's going to come down as you break that down. It won't come down initially. You won't be able to stop that, just like you'll be able to stop a physical compulsion. Okay, guys, I think that covers most of the things I wanted to talk about today. The YouTube channel is going to have over 100 videos going up on OCD from these Instagram lives over the last year or so, and over the last 2 years, yeah. So it will have a lot of videos going up there. So you'll have all of those to watch on all different topics. I really suggest going back through and watching those because there's a hell of a lot of content on all different things about OCD. A lot of them are available on the Facebook page, so you can go on there and you can see all different archived ones, but there'll be a lot more on the YouTube channel. I think that's about it today, guys. I'll be on the next Instagram live very shortly in the next couple of days, and I will see you guys then. All right, guys, see you later.